all looked over. What I'm proposing. Basically, all of the changes that cause for increase is I'd like to give the workers 30 cents an hour raise. And I'd like to add 1 mechanic and 2 truck drivers and 2 temporary personnel. We're getting ready to do some work on the lot. The grant's coming in. We got a lot of work to do on the lot before they can even come in and start.
Which lot?
The entire facility.
Okay, at Highway Farm.
Right. We've got stuff to move from one level up to the other level, get ready to salvage. I asked for a increase in the overtime. This winter storm this year, it wiped us out on the overtime. We kind of had to back off and flex it to carry on through July. And the increase in the rentals, which is $6,200, $351. When we make the coal mix, we have to rent a mixer. And that's like $4,000 every time we do it. And we usually do that twice a month, so we were running low. The increase in the other contracted services that I asked for is in-place asphalt. That's where we get an outside contractor to come in and put down new asphalt after we've got the roads ready for them. And that's where the crushed stone increase comes in. We have to go in and put in the pipe. And if there's break in the roadway surface or whatever, we have to put fresh stone down to get a base before we can put a new top on it. So it's all tied together. Just, I basically asked for money to keep the guys kind of content, and then materials to fix the roads with. Either where it's be salt for the winter time, rock, asphalt, or stuff to make the asphalt. Most of the stuff I left unchanged. But this year, I've been working with Eric this last month, and we're getting close to having to move money around to cover to make it through this year. So need a little help. I'm not as smooth as Mr. Lawson, so if you got any questions, just ask, and I'll put it back to you.
Mr. Chairman, I've got some questions.
Yes.
Eric, can you remind the committee and the rest of the commissioners here how much ARPA funding we get for equipment?
$370,000, I believe.
All right. Mr. Jones, out of that $370,000, could you give us an update on what equipment has been bought and how much of that ARPA money you have left?
I should have about $225,000 left. I purchased 2 3/4-ton trucks for snow equipment. I purchased a tar distributor truck. Purchased a track hoe. Purchased a roller. And I believe I bought the skid steer out of the county money, but I did it because I was running low, underestimated the cost of the stuff. I think that's all I purchased.
So my question is, so you're talking about, you said a mixer for the cold mix is $4,000 each rental, right? How much would one cost the county to buy instead of paying the rental cost?
Probably 500,000 or more, plus an operator.
And then another question I've got about the pay. So you're asking for an increase of 30 cents, right?
Correct.
Last year, I believe we gave you 250,000, is that correct, Eric? For pay,
I don't have that figure off the top of my head.
would the commission approve 250,000? What did that come out to on a pay raise for your employees there?
$1 an hour, which is $2,080 a year.
So they got a dollar an hour last year?
Yes, sir.
Was that across the board, or was that only certain individuals?
Across the board.
So now your temporary labor, is that still at 13.25, or is that up to 14.25 now?
14.25.
So everybody, so laborers are now 15.75, tractor operators at 16.48, truck with a CDL at now 16.77, equipment 17.85, mechanic 18.65. Does it include your secretaries also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then your shop and road supervisor also got that?
Yes, sir.
Where are we at on, last year after a road list that we have been working on, where are we at on that? The list of roads that have been, had work on, paved, rock.
It's at the office. Just, you're welcome to come over and she can pull it up on the computer exactly what we've done, what we're planning on doing.
Anybody else have any questions?
Eric, can you touch on what you went over yesterday? You said that the way this budget is right now, it is not valid, it can't be sent the way that it is today. Can you review that so everybody can remember?
Absolutely. Everybody flip to page 6. It'll kind of help highlight that point. Everybody just a minute to get there. All right, so when you look down there at the estimated ending fund balance on a June 30th basis for the 24-25 column, that's a negative figure. So that's $288,724. Now, obviously, that's an estimate, but that's how we send the budgets to Nashville. It's estimates, and I can't send a budget with a negative estimate. So obviously, there's only two approaches, or a combination of the two, but one is funding, taxes, and the other one's the expenditures. So one has to increase, one has to decrease, or they have to meet in the middle, some combination. This cannot be sent as is. Also, I touched briefly yesterday about the complications this creates when you get that low in cash. When your revenues come in, payroll is a constant. When you try to do large expenditures, large grants, sometimes you can send out an invoice to the state, wait for reimbursement, the vendor will be okay. Other times they're jumping up and down wanting their money. Start to threaten you with late fees. County can't pay late fees. It's highly frowned upon. Audit does not accept that. It's a waste of taxpayer money. So that being said, you don't ever want to be that cash poor, that cash tight in the budget, especially one that operates as much as the highway does. So revenues have to increase, expenditures have to decrease, or some combination of both.
Does this budget include the 30-cent payroll?
Yes, it does.
So for argument's sake, if you were to pull that 30 cents out completely, would it be back in balance?
I don't have the amount of employees and what that would run.
I guess we'd have to know who's getting the step.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone's getting the same.
Huh.
Everyone from janitor to,
We'll have.
Yeah, because his pay scale is just highway department, his is on pay scale.
Running about 40-something people right now, 47,
probably 43.
43.
That was last payday, May 101 cents.
Well, Eric's doing the math, how many positions are you trying to hire right now?
Add new,
Just that you have in place that we need somebody in, or do you have any, are you taking any applications right
yes. I've taken applications for temporaries, truck drivers, operators. I'm good on laborers.
So just doing that on the fly, so don't quote me anything on this, please. But 30 cents per employee per 20 days scale, you're looking at about roughly $27,000. So no, that does not fix the situation whatsoever. And if the intent of the committee is to look at a review for the sheriff's department and look at a COLA for their employees, I would caution to not look at the 30 cents, because then you're going to run into some employees got raises, some didn't. So I would caution to not go that direction to fix this issue.
So how many employees do you have when you started? How many did you have when you started?
Started my term, or
When you took office?
that was like 33.
33, and how many have you added, not counting these that you're asking for today?
There's 43, maybe 44 on payroll now.
And you're going to add, one, you said one mechanic, one truck driver, and two part-time,
2 part-time, 2 truck drivers, and 1 mechanic.
2 truck drivers. So you're going to add, that's 5 more employees.
Eric, can you explain, just looking at the numbers here on the truck drivers, you got $177,000 increase.
Got any questions from Mr. Johnson?
What is the,
That's adding the 2 truck drivers. Plus what the other 7 that was budgeted for. With their 30% rate. That would be 12 truck drivers at 1707. And if my math didn't mess up, that's 426,000, $60.
tow truck with the CDL at how much?
1707.
Commissioner Palmer's probably looking at what I'm looking at, Danny, that it shows here, truck and CDL is 1577.
That was before the dollar.
No, that was
raise.
before the dollar increase,
Well, I-
1677.
So now they could add $1 to all this. And I'll figure it out for you.
That could be a little high, because I was budgeted for 7.3, so I couldn't hire the .3 man, so I rounded it up to 8 and added the 2, so that could be 10 truck drivers, and then I probably added 2 extra. So it should be 10 truck drivers, which should be 355,000 instead of the 426. I made boo-boo.
Three big difference.
But you're proposing to add 2 more, correct?
Can I go back and clarify another question that Commissioner Palmer asked? He was asking about a cold mixer, which I know nothing about. I know when we allocated ARPA money, you were talking about trying to find a used one, trying to find something that is in good condition, but you weren't wanting to buy anything new. Is it that you can't find one in your price range, or is that there's just not a lot in our region that are being sold?
Both. If you find a good paver, it's from a paving company that doesn't need it anymore, to reduce manpower or whatever. But I've not been looking for a paver, simply because it takes 12 people to operate that crew. I know got the people to do it. It'd just be sitting there gathering rust.
How much would you say that you spend contracting companies to pay for you?
In millions.
How much is it a paper mile again? I know we talked about this previously, I don't remember. that
It's in between 150 and 175,000 a mile.
To contract?
Right.
Do you know how much you could do it if you had your own paper and your own manpower, how much that would cut down?
I could give you a rough figure, but it wouldn't save that much.
I can tell you what Sullivan County did. So when I spoke to Sullivan County, they have their own asphalt plant. They can make, haul, and lay for approximately $8 a ton, while a private company is approximately 150 to 160 a ton. And they can pave approximately 40 miles per year, and currently budgeted for paving at $2.5 million. So you're basically you're looking at cutting it in half, doing it yourself.
I'm getting asphalt laid for $133 a ton. And just have to inspect it.
So would if you were to have your own paving machine and you were to hire a crew to run that paving machine, would you save money over having to contract it the way it is? I mean, would you be able to pay for yourself to do that because you're not contracting anymore?
I wouldn't be paving the entire roads. Paving machine would be for doing in-place mats and whatever like we do with the grader now.
So you just have, the roads would still have to be contracted?
Right.
Or we could do sections of the road. With the worst section, if it's a 300-foot stretch, it's just,
With the state aid money,
I'm talking about county road.
I am too.
I know, but we could do, we don't have to do an entire road, we could do sections of the road.
But we're doing that now, but it would take 12 people, 2 dump truck drivers, and that's just for partial roads. And 2 screw guys on the machine, and flaggers and breakers. It's quite an extensive operation.
So that money has to be expended by December 2026, is that correct?
Dollar money?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've got the 200 and something thousand left. It has to be spent by December 2026. So do you have plans on what you're gonna do with it since you can't buy the paper?
Update our snow removal equipment, trucks. I bought the skid steer out of county funds, which was like 47,000, that I didn't use ARPA funds, so I could, if I run over on any of the other stuff that I bought, I would have that as a buffer, so.
So Eric, here's my question then. When he came to us, he asked us for ARPA money because he wanted to buy a paving machine. And we allocated that money so he could buy a paving machine, but he no longer wants to buy a paving machine. So does that put us in an issue with the use of that money because that's what it was allocated for?
Skid steer was also included in that money.
As far as from an accounting perspective, it's in a line called highway equipment. And so he listed trucks, plows, roller pavers, various highway equipment. So as long as it's expended for highway equipment from an accounting and audit standpoint, no. That makes the issue with you all, and that's between you and road superintendent. But as far as from an accounting and audit perspective, as long as he's using it for highway equipment and he's not trying to pay salaries out of it or contracting to pay the road with some other vendor, no.
Personally, I mean, you know how to run your department, obviously better than I do. So I'm not concerned about that. It's just, I know that was part of the plan originally. I just don't want us to get in hot water for that.
But you can see where I'm coming from. If I run up on one for $200,000, I go by, yeah, I got a good deal, and it's gonna sit there. I mean, we might use it 3 days a week, but we'd have to shut something else down to use it. And we'll just be shooting ourselves in the foot, I think, right now.
But when you asked for the money, you felt like you could use it.
Right. I was planning on coming in big style. When I went in front of the budget committee, I got, hey, we can't do this, so. That was basically how we got in line by cutting out the paving.
If you remember last year, you all taxed me and Mr. Jones with getting that fund balance back to a certain number. And to do so, we cut several of the expenditures. Well, that was his paving crew that was cut. Well, paving crew, truck drivers, and whatnot. So that's why I said, it makes never mind to me what kind of highway departments you all want to run. But if you want to run this one, it needs a lot of additional funding. If not, then we have to pull this out because this is not sustainable.
I think the biggest issue, I know Mr. Riley has received several phone calls too, like I have, from the 7th district. The biggest issue I have is I'm getting calls from people all across my district who are saying, when is our road going to get worked on? And I'm going to be honest with you, John, they feel like they're being given the short end of the stick.
90% of the people in the county do.
I understand that. I know there's roads that need attention, but people do want to see some progress being made in their end of the county.
And Mr. Palmer, I do think you need to address those concerns with Mr. Jones. For today's conversation, we probably need to keep it focused on the budget itself.
Well, this is about the budget. They don't feel like their money is being spent wisely.
So, I think when we're looking at trying to finish that bottom dollar, what can you do within your budget to help address that? I mean, and still address the concerns of Mr. Palmer's constituents or.
When I ran for this office, said I was going to fix the worst roads first, and that's what I'm doing. And we have put in all the allotted funding for the pipe, whether it be plastic or metal. We're replacing the pipe, doing the ditching, getting the water control, and getting the roads ready to be paved. You gotta do those steps before you start throwing asphalt. So we're almost in a position to start putting asphalt where we've been fixing the roads and getting them ready. It takes time. Especially when you've got one crew putting in pipe and one crew doing the gravel and the grade work. You gotta shut one down and move them around. It just takes time.
So, Danny, looking at actual expenses for 2021-22 were, and I'm just sharing this, not just for you, but for the committee to know this, and I have this from a budget document on my phone. Because I knew you were looking at me like, where did I get this number? It was $4,787,271. Okay, so almost $4.8 million. If you compare that to the expenditures in 22-23, which we had in front of us, expenses increased $531,000, a little over. If the estimated actual expenses for 23-24 come in, that would be a $2.8 million increase over 22-23, right, in actual expenditures, estimated actual expenditures. Now, which means from budget year 21-22 to budget year 23-24, expenditures increased by $3.4 million if this estimated actual expenditure is correct. Okay? It's 70% increase in expenditures from 21-22 to 23-24. You're asking for another $1 million for 24-25's budget, okay? If you spent all of that, I understand you may not, but if you did, that would be a $4.1 million increase, that would almost be double the budget we had in 21-22. Now that very well may be what it takes to run the department. I'm not sure, we're gonna have to decide that, but I am gonna say, I'm not sure that any other department in the county has doubled their budget since 21-22. And I think that's a fair question for us to ask. Go ahead, Eric, what do you have?
When you start off with the 21-22 actuals, to truly draw that comparison, you really need one more back farther to get the 21-22 original budget. Because Mr. Bean had a fairly substantial budget, it's just never spent it to exhaustion. But if we start spending this to actually what is budgeted, we'll see those declines. We had budgets in the red for the highway department in the past that would have bankrupted the county in 2 years, but it never happened. They always spent substantially less. But I would say if you went back and looked at that 21-22 original budget, it was probably more in the neighborhood of $7 or $8 million.
Do you think if we allocate this $8.863 million, Danny, do you think that you would need every dime of that? Do you think it'd probably take most of that to operate, or do you think you may be able to turn some back in?
Probably could turn some in, but I'm going on the budget that I asked for last year and got. I'm going to be cutting it close at the end of June.
In your questionnaire, you said zero. You're already planning the alternative thing.
Right.
And I asked that question to say that I'm not just trying to assume that he's going to spend it all this year, right? So I'm assuming that if we continue that trend, now we may not, but if we continue that trend, $4.1 million increase in expenditures in a $4.8 million budget over a 3-4 years, that's a lot of money, man. And we've got to, we're side-eyeing the sheriff for $1.8 million, and so, anyway, I need to just stop. I just want to bring that to everybody's attention of how much of an increase this was, and if that's warranted, I want you to have the money to fix the roads. That's what I want. But it is frustrating at times, and I know it's frustrating for you, I'm sure it is, to see the extra money that has been spent in the department, and still yet we can't seem to get where we need to be. That it is frustrating, and we continue to get calls and things with frustrated citizens, and then some people will even make the accusation that we're not giving it any money, right? That was said during the snowstorm. Well, the commission won't give us any money, and that's absolutely untrue. And so I think that's where my frustration comes in, just to be transparent with you. With that, I'll give it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
So, show me, this is the projection for, okay, this is 2021, this is estimated 2020, 2021. So, show me where, got that number, so I can understand. Is this the right, let's see the number here. I think you were looking at 22, 23.
So mine is coming from,
Okay.
total estimated expenditures, and I'm actually looking at, I think, last year's budget, so I'm looking at actual 21-22.
Okay, so this is 121. So this is the estimated, so this is what's correct. So that's the case. So the estimated expenditure that was allocated in 2021 would have been 8 million something. But he would have came back quite a bit under that.
Correct, because he only spent 4.8. And if that was the case here, then that would be fine. if we allocated 8.8 million for it. But I mean, that's your way. No, it's not.
You know, just another snowstorm's coming.
Absolutely.
We didn't expect this one.
Let's go back to that snowstorm. You said you bought two 3/4 ton trucks, right, for snow removal? When were those purchased? Because all we
2
heard,
weeks ago.
so all we heard during the snowstorm was the highway department had crappy equipment. The equipment's not working. This ARPA money was allocated before winter. And we just now purchased snow removal equipment.
I gotta have the availability. I mean, I can go out and buy one for $85,000 and get one truck, or I can wait till they come on the market.
So, I guess being transparent with the citizens, is the money was available. But we didn't do anything with it until after it was needed. And I know the storm was very difficult, and we do commend your crews, and I stand by what I said, and how hard your crews worked. But the money was made available. That's my only frustration, is if we needed the equipment, and the money was available, we should have got the equipment we needed before we needed it.
The money is available now, and I'm doing what I think I need to do to make them trucks, utility trucks, instead of dedicated to snow removal.
But at the same time, that's what the money was allocated for, was for snow removal.
All the old trucks that we have, most of them crapped out a couple times during the storm, but we kept them going best we could.
I just want our crews to have the best available that we can give them. And
I do too.
that was one of the first things as a commissioner when I went in. Did get you the money from ARPA that you needed to update your equipment and do the job. And that's what the citizens want.
Mr. Jones, would you repeat for me again the equipment that you bought? I've got down 2 trucks for snow equipment. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And a track hoe
Yes, ma'am.
and a mower?
No mower.
No mower?
No mower.
I thought I heard you say a mower.
A tar distributor truck.
A distributor truck?
Mm-hmm.
Tar distributor.
Like a chip and seal. Is that correct?
Right. A roller. Track hoe.
Maybe you said roller and I thought you said mower. We're gonna roll instead of mow.
We're gonna roll.
Okay.
It's a hybrid roller mower truck.
You roll in that hill.
Hey, Dan, you said you had 30, you got 43 present. Well, on this questionnaire that we've asked, you got 59, and with the new ones, that would put you up to 64, so which one of these are correct?
Right now I have, if you wanna add 10 operators, this is what I'm budgeted for. That don't mean all the positions are filled. I'm budgeted for 10 operators, 7.3 truck drivers, 15 laborers, 5 long arm mower operators, 2 administration support, 4 mechanics, shop foreman, a road foreman, and a cleaning lady.
46.3 is what I had up my head. 46.3 in my head.
And you had 33 when you started in your new administration.
what was on the payroll.
Where would the cleaning lady be working at?
She works part-time at the shop, at the office. 3 hours a week, I believe. No, 3 hours. Yeah, she just don't work.
You have 2 secretaries.
Mr. Jones, I just want to make sure the information I got is correct. So what is on the questionnaire, is that correct? Or maybe just,
That would be fully staffed, so.
okay, so that's not the positions you have. That is, if you were completely hired up.
That's up to the budget.
Okay.
That would be counting, the 59 total would be counting, no, let me rephrase that. 59 total employees. At the time I fill this out, those feet on the ground. We added, you got 2 truck drivers and mechanics, temps, it would come up to 64. But since then, people have moved on and moved around.
So listen, so you have 59 positions, but you have 43 employees. So if you are, then that's what I asked her, I think, is you're taking applications, with applications you're taking are for part-time.
Part-time truck drivers and operators.
Okay, gotcha.
That is budgeted.
Yeah, I think that's where the confusion was. So you do have 59 positions, you're asking to add 2, 4, 5 more positions.
Right.
For a total of 64.
Okay, and I think we're tracking.
And on the payroll now, it's probably 43 to 45, according to who left, who I hired back. It's kind of like the sheriff's department. Turn them up, they go make better money somewhere else. And you can't blame them.
Does anybody else have questions for Mr. Jones?
I would just like to make sure that what I've got down is correct as far as employees, and I'm assuming, I don't want to assume anything. I want to know that this is the number that you have right now. 10 operators, 7.3 truck drivers, 15 laborers, 5 mowers, 2 secretaries, 4 mechanics. And how many operators?
That is what I am budgeted for.
Oh, that's what you're budgeting for. That's not what you've
That's
got
not what's
right
on the
now.
ground.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the confusion. We're talking about employees that he has versus positions that he has. And some of the positions that he has are not filled.
Not filled.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
But you're budgeted for full positions.
Right.
So we haven't paid the overage of the budgeted positions, are we basically using that for overtime, or what are those budgeted position salaries we going for right now?
We have took some out of the operators' pay, which is, and out up some parts, everywhere we're low on the line item, taking those funds and getting everything up to snuff.
So Eric, what's your recommendation? You're saying if we send this to the comptroller,
I can't send it like it is. I
oh,
won't send it. Sorry. I won't.
well, what I'm saying is what's your recommendation? Or do you have a recommendation of what we could do to make it where the comptroller would accept it?
He either needs more revenue, and the only revenue in his budget that you all currently control, that is in substance to it, is property tax. Or we have to trim these requests way down, or some combination of the two mixed together. Now, when we do my job, I remind you that when you adjust his local revenues, it goes into those 5-year averages. So it's not something you can give 1 year and then not give the next year. You give it, you're committed to it forevermore. And that may be perfectly fine, that may be exactly what needs to happen, but you can't pull it back next year. You'll violate the 5-year average, you'll lose gas tax money, and you'll diminish the department, which you're trying to do to build the department. So if you give property tax, it's got to stay there.
And just for reference, if the average property, if the average house in Hawkins County is assessed at $150,000 value, for every penny extra that you pay in taxes on a $150,000 house, it equates to $3.74. Well, $3.748 annually for every penny on a $150,000 home. So, like I said earlier, if we're thinking about how we're going to adjust funds or how we're going to fix funds, if that equates to looking at pennies, every penny costs, let's just say $3.75 a year for the average taxpayer in Hawkins County. All right, anybody else have anything for Mr. Jones? And this is on a $150,000 property value, so, and that's, I'm guessing that's the average. For every penny on $150,000 property, it equates to $3.74 annually. So basically, $3.75.
Did you figure how many pennies you would need to meet his request?
I didn't, not yet. If we were looking at where his deficit is, his deficit's at his deficit is estimated to be $288,724. So if every penny generates $122,222, I mean, 244 would be 2 pennies. So you're looking at,
I can't sit down with the zero fund balance either.
so, I mean, if you're going to zero it out, what is that? Somebody better at math than me. 244 is 2 pennies.
Well, I think this is the end of, like his actual deficit over under is like 2.8. Yeah. So
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I see what you're
that's-
saying. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
And that doesn't need to come back to zero, but it's got to move a whole heck of a lot.
So what is this? What is the amount?
I don't know that the CTES has, I can check on that, a requirement for the highway department. You know, I read to you in the general fund, the recommendation is nothing below 20% ending fund balance of your annual expenditures. So I mean, right now it'd be an error because you can't have a negative fund balance. But I know when I turn stuff into the comptroller's office, I have to plug our figures into their spreadsheet. I have to look, see what that number is, but I think if you turn anything in under 5%, it flags it. You have to send additional documentation to prove that you will not have a cash shortage during the year.
So
5 or
5%,
10%, but it's
5% of $8,863,685 would be $400,000. So he needs to end his fund balance. If it was at 5%.
moving a little fast for me now, but I still got to do it. I'd recommend substantially more, but I see where you're going. But
What defines substantially more?
if he follows the trend, you know, right now, like I said, in the past, we had 50% almost turned back in annually. You know, somewhere between 40 and 50%. We're projecting to basically spend the budget. So I wouldn't want to fix it on a temporary basis that we're going to have the same exact conversation next year. So if we're going to bite the bullet and fix it, I think we need to fix it. I would think you'd want at least 15 to 20% ending fund balance compared to annual expenditures.
1.6 million? That's 20%.
That'd be my recommendation. Perfect world.
That's 13 something cents, 14 cents.
Well, if you address that issue purely on the revenue side, yes.
Now, if you,
Now, with that said, I'm not talking about addressing it just on, I want to clarify that. I'm not talking about addressing it just on the revenue side. We do have to figure out in the budget where we can move money around. So that doesn't mean I'm saying we need a 14-cent tax increase. I'm just saying we have to find pennies somewhere. And I appreciate you allowing me to clarify that, because that is true. But somewhere in there, we've got to find, what you're saying is about 14 cents to fix this. If it's as is, that is.
If it is.
Anybody else have questions for Mr. Jones?
I got one.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mr. Jones, roughly how much contribution do you get from the state and through the federal government?
On state aid programs
Yes.
for paving, usually 200, 300,000. Last year was a little different. We got like 3.5 million, 3.4 to do paving with. So we went through about half of it and still got it balanced.
Is there like a time when you have to have that spent?
By July. It's yearly, just like our budget.
But from what I heard you say, you've got a lot of roads prepped, ready to pave right now.
But the 3.5 that we got, it rolls over.
Just out of curiosity, how many roads did you pave this year?
This year we not done any. Last year budget we did 1, 2, 3. About 7 or 8.
is that entire stretches of road or sections?
That's roads.
That's from road beginning to end.
Most of them connectors that connect a state road to a state road.
So as of right now, do you have any plans to pay any before July?
Yes. I have probably 1.5 million to do before July,
I mean, how many roads will that cover?
maybe 3.
Do we have to pave the entire road, or can we pave the worst part?
Most of the time when you go in and start paving on a road, it's all in the same condition.
I know Longtown Road didn't get the whole road paved.
Right. We were learning there.
Has it been fixed?
It's good as it's gonna get fixed right now.
What about Lochner Road?
It's on the list,
We're at on the list.
down low.
Or VFW Road?
If you got a road in the county any worse than that, I want you to take me and see it.
Well, you just get in my truck and we'll go. There's plenty of them,
Worse than Lochner Road.
worse than Lochner Road.
I gotta see it.
All right, any more budgeting questions for Mr. Jones? All right. Mr. Jones, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's see, we've got, oh, thank you.
Anytime you wanna go, just give me a call, we'll ride over.
Ag Extension Office, will you see Mr. Jones as you leave, if anybody from Ag Extension's out there?
I'll do it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.